Hello, I'm Paul Wilkinson and I'm filming from Kathmandu, where I'm making a documentary series on Himalayan shamanism. And today I'd like to show you some power animals related to the shamanic relationship to nature and to the element of the tiger, the way that the tiger connects to nature. So you can see here we have a very large, unusual image of this is an altarpiece of a shaman riding on a lion or a tiger. This one has a big mane, but we have a lot of, you see underneath, big penis and testicles, and he's riding along on the top of this. And then on the top of a lot of different Phurbas, you have tigers or leopards or lions. So this one's stripy, and you can see it's a sort of cat-like figure with a sort of slightly human anthropomorphic face, the gods underneath and the Vajra design here, and then the typical snake designs representing the Kundalini, and then this representing Ganesh as the first shaman. But what I'm focusing on today is these animals at the top. So I'll show you a few different representations first. So here again you have another tiger-like figure, but this time with big ears, really focused, and a cat-like tail. Again another big cat-type animal here on the top. Another tiger with the big teeth and the long tail. And so the tiger, again, here, with a tiger, and he's got his reins. Sometimes they've got bows and arrows as well. There are lots of other animals that they'll have on the tops. But typically horses, occasionally Naga like this one. So in the structure of the Phurba, you've got the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world. So the bit at the top represents transformed consciousness and also the vehicle of the shaman travelling from one world to another. So when you've got a Phurba like that, now the shaman is travelling, he's in a praying position, he's travelling on the top of his spirit horse from one world to another. So this is very much about the vehicle through which the shaman is journeying through the different worlds. And I'll show you a couple of different examples of that for the horses. So you see again, you've got this time all the ribbons are the rainbow representing the different chakras and the light body. So on the horse you've got the sun and the moon. He's again in a praying figure. The bells on the back of the shaman. Little bow and arrow here representing aiming and releasing the goals, a bow and arrow on the other side. So it's very much about direction and moving, and then you've got the gods here, and a sort of anthropomorphic figure where you've got Ganesh, but then the sun and the moon turning into eyes and a big mouth like a Mashan making up the body, but also the arm, so the Ganesha's trunk is arm, and then the snake body's like the chakras coming up, and a bird and a Vajra, another face on the front, more faces, and making up so again you've got a tree, but also coming up a little bit like an arm. So there's multiple layers where the figures are revealing themselves. So again here you have the shaman's head with vegetation on either side, but also looking a bit like hands. and then multiple malas coming down, but with a sun and a moon, and then a big naga head full of teeth, and the spiral like the trunk of Ganesh, but with huge teeth again, like a snake or like a makara. So layered and layered over, so the snakes again, so the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world. And the tiger represents, like the king of the beasts, like the lion in sort of Western mythology and in African symbolism, it's the king of nature. So in the Far East, the tiger is like the king of nature, and he's the bridge between nature and man and all the other worlds, all the other animals. And I have an amazing tiger mask which I commissioned about maybe 30 years ago from a guy called Wayan Tengu, who is Indonesia's top mask maker. He's a high priest, and when I asked, I was a young man when I asked for the mask, and he laughed. I was there with my dad. He never normally took commissions from Westerners, and there was a very strong inner connection, like a spiritual connection between us. So he took commissions from my dad, and he took commissions from me. And he asked if I would like to ask for a mask, if I'd like to make a commission. And I was young and inexperienced, and so I asked for exactly what I wanted, and not realising that the thing I was asking for was an enormous request. So I said I wanted a tiger barong, and a barong is like, it's a little bit like, in Nepali shamanism, it's almost like the symbolism of Banjakri, the shamanic link to Shiva, because Barong fights Rangda. Rangda is the queen of the witches, so in Nepali terms, Rangda is Lemlemna, also queen of the witches, and they have a lot of similarities with the long tongue and the pendulous breasts and the tangled long hair, and particularly eating children, while Banjakri is sort of protecting the children and training them up in positive shamanic magic. So this tiger barong is the bridge between the human world and the animal world. And so I asked for a tiger barong, and he laughed and smiled, and he said he had wanted to make one for many, many years, but no one had dared ask. So after about 8 or 9 months, the mask was ready, and it took a number of other months before my father this time was going, and my mother, and they picked it up for me. And I later found that the mask had taken about 9 months to prepare, and that they had been giving offerings to the tree for more than 20 years before taking the wood, and that they then had, I think it was about 30 layers of paint. So they paint first white, and then black, and then the colours on top, building up with hand-ground paint, and all the time doing mantras and rituals to empower this incredible object. So the tiger is this bridge from one world to the other, and he's a totem of energy and power. And in the yogis and the Shivic devotees are quite often depicted as meditating on a tiger skin, and some of the trumpets that the shaman play are also made of tiger bone. So you very much have this idea that the energy and power of the animal is transferred into the magical objects. So the shaman is focused on some of the qualities of those natural beings, of those natural animals, and channeling themselves through those qualities. So I've seen objects made of tiger's teeth and tiger's claws, but a lot of depictions of the sort of friendship connection, like the shaman riding on a tiger. And I was once filming up in the mountains, and a shaman called Dawa Sherpa suddenly grabbed my arm and pulled me up into these bushes and up, scrambling up this high cliff and up onto this ridge. And we were looking across, and he excitedly cleared away some of the undergrowth. And there was a big rock that was very sacred to the shaman in the shape of a tiger's head, with sort of ear-type shapes. And he lit offerings and gave some sort of devotional offerings, lit some incense, and we did some rituals there. And the other shaman we were with clambered up through the undergrowth and got up onto this place. And then Dower said that he had meditated for many, many months on this place, and he pointed across into the jungle, and he said that there's a female tiger lives over there in a cave, and many times she comes out and watches the whole area. He said many times she came quite close while he was in meditation, but never harmed him. And I've had similar experiences, not with tigers, but with a lot of other animals, where they come quite close when I've been in nature and meditating, and interesting encounters with deer and stag, and with eagles, and in England with smaller animals like badgers, where I'll be sitting meditating at night and they'll come up. So the shaman have this tradition of power animals that they identify with, and which they call the spirit of to do various different types of work, or to guide them through different types of reality. So they're well aware that every animal has its own senses, its own sensitivities. So I'll give you a few other examples here. So this is a very, very unusual Phurba, quite crude in a way. It's a monkey, and we've got sort of lots of the ribbons for the rainbow body, and little pieces of metal which are designed to cool the spirit world and also to protect the shaman. And you have a sun here and a metal end, and there was a monkey on another one of these. Where is it? Up here. You have a monkey on the top. So this time the monkey's got something in his hands, and you see big testicles at the back where he's got the red bum, and the tail coming up the back. So he's sitting on top of the godheads, and then the Vajra and the snakes. And then on some others you've got like, so on this one, very, very unusual, because you've got a combination of Ganesh and Garuda. So you've got the Garuda back and the Ganesh front, but they've made his hands cover his beak, so that when you look at the long side of it, it's the trunk, and then just the covered bit looks much more like a beak, and then with the wings at the back and the tail. So you've got Garuda lower down, and in this position you've got the godheads and the cobra at the top, but wrapped around a type of pinnacle crown, and the crown is sort of, it's a shape, a little bit like that, or like this one, like that, a dome, stupa type of a shape. Sometimes these stupa type shapes also represent a type of psychedelic mushrooms for travelling with. So here you've got the cobra connected to the naga and to sacred poison, the hood of the cobra protecting the higher aspects of the spirit as it's rising up. And then more typically you've got the horse and the shaman riding on the back of the horse. And sometimes other animals as well. Again, you've got the shaman riding on the back of a tiger. But sometimes you have things like the godhead. So that in these ones you've got the shaman sat on top of a double-ended, like a double-sided damaru shape. But cats, all like cat-like figures are around there. And the sequences that you get in the symbolism, so you've got the snakes, and then the damaru with the trishul and damaru drum, and the bamboo, which is a water vessel with sacred herbs, and then the animals, and then this sort of yin-yang type shape as a seat, and the shaman sitting on top with the... This is, I mean, very interesting that you've got the sacred cloths on this side running through the middle. He's wearing his mala and he's praying, and then with the little top notch on the top. So one interpretation of the fabric coming from the middle might be the silver cord running from the navel centre. Possibly it's just a rainbow body, but because it's running around the waist of the shaman, it could also be about the silver cord. You see, again, a tiger with the stripes, and he's sitting on the side with the bells. And this one's actually made of deer horn, so you've got the sort of the potency and power of the deer with the meditating figure on the top. Very, very old, and very, very rare, very powerful shape, the Shamanic Phurba. So there's so many different variations here. Again, you've got a meditating figure with a big crown and naga all wrapped around, but with gods hidden inside, and then with the sun and the stars and moons, at full moons. So extraordinarily rich symbolism. So the shaman often has different types of vehicle that represent his consciousness melding into the animal world, and then also calling and communicating with the spirits of the different types of animals, and quite literally melting into those. So they'll use something like the skull of a hornbill to connect them to the sort of inner flight between different worlds, or they'll have the claws of the tiger to help pick out the energy when they're doing healing, to open up where the energy has got trapped in the body. So I hope that's been interesting and useful, and if you have any questions about the use of power animals in shamanic magic objects or in rituals, or any other requests for videos, do let me know. And please subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one. Thank you.